Welcome into episode 149 of the Godly Young Men podcast. Today we are discussing feminism. We have touched on feminism so much, I feel like, we're 149 episodes in, so for sure we have discussed it, but we've never done a full episode. And you sent me something very interesting a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, about a song that just was released that we definitely want to get into a little bit later, that seems to be indicating maybe the demise of feminism is on the horizon.
What comes to mind, the phrase that comes to mind for me is just the lie of feminism. Like the lie that feminism tells specifically young women. Obviously, This is not a young women's podcast by any means, but if you're a young man, then, first of all, it's going to affect you in the sense of the person that you choose to marry, the person that, you choose to get in a relationship with is going to be affected by this at least some extent. And then also just the way feminism has impacted our society over the last several decades has been huge, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, we'll get to more detail later on. But Kelsea Ballerini, who's a country music star, released a song about motherhood. And again, we'll save the full details for later. But that's kind of what sparked this episode. Is she's somebody who is not married, first of all, and does not have any children. It's kind of living the single life and making it very well known that's what she wanted to do. Until this song came out that she performed at the CMAs just about a month ago or so now. And it's kind of sparked a lot of online, I wouldn't say controversy, but discussion, to say the least. And so I thought it definitely, I know Joe's not a big country music person at all, but
I thought the song was really good.
Yeah, the song is actually decent. But yeah, so it fits into the discussion. And I realized, we have not done an episode strictly on feminism and, first of all, why it's ridiculous. But yeah, I wanted to talk about kind of the lie that feminism tells specifically young women, of course, but then how that impacts them later on.
Well, you put together a really good outline on this. As we get into first, second, third wave feminism, fourth wave feminism, I want you to get into the history here because I think that's really important for the average person to know a little bit of the history, a little bit of how we got here. And, feminism, people may hear that and people know what that is now. I think as it's come along, it has absolutely morphed over time.
Yeah.
I think it's always been rooted, in my opinion, in the hatred of men. But either way, it's morphed over time. You have a little bit of the history on the outline. I wonder if you can get into that a little bit.
And I'll try to be brief because I know the history, specifically if you're listening, is not always the most riveting content. But
necessary.
As we kind of present the way that feminism impacts our society today and kind of the common threads that you see in our society, it is important to go back. So feminism is commonly referred to as coming in different waves. The first wave, most people attribute to starting in around the year 1848, and that went all the way to 1920. In 1848, it was the Seneca Falls Convention, where attendees signed the Declaration of Sentiments, which affirmed women's equality with men and passed a dozen resolutions calling for various specific rights, including the right to vote. But it wasn't until 1920, when the 19th Amendment was passed, that actually guaranteed women's right to vote. So that was kind of the first wave.
1848.
Yeah, all the way back pre-Civil War. Pre-Civil War, obviously, again, that's kind of a 72-year time frame, so a good amount of time. But that's kind of when this kind of originated. The second wave, I would say, by far was the most impactful in my very limited study and research on this. But it's about from 1963 to 1980, the second wave. A lady by the name of Betty Friedan, I'm assuming Friedan, published The Feminine Mystique. It's one of the most well-known American books, or books that impacts American culture of all time. It argued that women were chafing against the confines of their role as wives and mothers. The book sold 1.4 million copies in just 3 years back in the 60s, which
insane.
Is pretty substantial.
That is insane.
Yeah, basically the book was published and kind of pushed back against the traditional roles of women being wives and mothers. Big names like Gloria Steinem, who was very well known in the feminism movement back then. She was around during this time frame, again in the 60s all the way through the 80s. And then, of course, Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973, which, for those of you who maybe not know off the top of your head, legalized abortion, essentially. And so women's reproductive rights, that whole discussion that's still going on today, started in this second wave of feminism. Joe, if you want to go ahead and get us into the third and fourth waves, which I would argue, once again, are probably not as impactful as this second wave, but definitely carried the torch, I would say.
I feel like it was refining in this wave. The third wave is the 1990s. Maybe the late 80s, into the 90s. This focused on tackling problems that still existed, including sexual harassment in the workplace, a shortage of women in positions of power. And so, again, it's almost like they got the wheels turning at the very beginning, and then they really got chugging along from this train in the 60s through 1980. This one's where we're kind of navigating a new world now. We've had flower power, we've had the sexual revolution, we've had a lot of things in the 60s. The 70s, it's been pretty wild. Now we're getting to the point where it's refinement. And now we start looking at, yes, getting more women in the workplace than ever before, and then doing studies on what does that look like, how does it impact things. And so, yeah, the sexual harassment, things like that. So I think third wave is, like you said, maybe not as impactful, but more refining and maybe delicate, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the fourth wave, which is just basically present day. Several websites I looked at said it's kind of hard to define. A lot more difficult to define than the first three waves. But one new feature of the fourth wave is the internet. The internet the internet certainly led to kind of like a social media fueled activism. The Me Too movement was very big. This was in 2017. I should say it took off in 2017. Harvey Weinstein, a whole bunch of stuff we don't need to get into. But essentially, it got broadcasted a whole lot more, the feminist movement, because of social media, and obviously, even media itself. And so we are now in kind of this fourth wave of feminism. Joe, if I were to ask you kind of like, what are the basic tenets of feminism? Obviously, a lot of people listening to this probably kind of already know, but I think sometimes we might think feminism just means, women need to make the same amount of money, or women should be able to work or vote or stuff like that. We're well beyond that now. What would you say are kind of some of the main, I don't have this on the outline, but just off the top of your head, some of the main tenets of feminism? If somebody says, I am a feminist, what do they believe?
They'll usually say what you said, which is equality. We're just looking with equality with men. The struggle with that is define equality. Right. You know what I mean? Like, is this the equality of opportunity, the equality of outcome, and that's a big one when you get into other parts of economics and things like that. But as far as goes with this, they're going to say it's equality. In my opinion, it's more power. It's a power dynamic move of women usurping men. So matriarchal societies, the patriarchy, down with the patriarchy they talk about. So it seems to be rooted in a hatred or an anger toward men. And it's what's interesting is as you think about going back to like the 1920s, when the 20th or when the what was that 26th Amendment? We have it on the outline.
19th.
19th, thank you.
Yeah, 19th Amendment.
I don't know why I was thinking 26th. 19th Amendment, going back to that time, what's going on around that time? Well, you have prohibition. You have guys come back from First World War. You have
the Roaring '20s are about to
start.
The
Roaring '20s or so. So you have all of these things taking place where men are kind of living a debaucherous lifestyle. And what do you have as you get toward the 50s? You're coming back from war. Both of those are coming back from war, where women are used, especially in World War II, where they're in the workplace, they're helping build the tanks, they're helping send things over to the troops over in Europe. And so women are given a position of power that they don't want to be taken away, but they're also looking at the woes of men. They're looking at a bunch of alcoholics, and women were the ones driving prohibition so much.
Yeah.
And so on the heels of this, it's like women had to be the ones that were holding men's feet to the fire to be the men that they needed to be. At least that's the way they thought. Women needed to be the ones to do it. I obviously don't agree with that, but that's so much of where they're rooted and why the hatred of men, I think, is there, is they look at men letting people down, men sexually taking advantage. Harvey Weinstein, guys like that, they did sexually take advantage of women. So I can understand the plight of, hey, men aren't doing the right thing. The question is, like, that's the problem laid out for everybody to see. The question is, how should we solve the problem?
Yeah.
Should it be through a woman solving the problem, I am woman, hear me roar, kind of the girl boss overtaking the man? Or should it be men calling each other out? Well, we know the answer to that one, but that's kind of the modern tenet of feminism.
Well, and I would just add, they, without a doubt, reject traditional gender roles. The wife cooking the meals, doing the laundry, being a housewife. A housewife is such a derogatory term these days.
Right.
Obviously, staying at home, taking care of their kids. They completely reject that, on its face. Essentially, it should be an equal partnership between husband makes money, wife takes care of kids, husband takes care of kids. Like, basically no distinction within a marriage. And then, of course, I would say some feminists also completely reject outright marriage itself. Like, they would say that marriage enslaves them, and that is not something that any woman needs to be part of. So I would say there's definitely a spectrum when it comes to feminism, but overall, it's a rejection of gender roles. It's kind of I don't really need marriage. I can sleep around. I can go pursue my own thing, which, again, we're going to get to some more of this in pop culture here in a second. But, yeah, those are some of the, I would say, modern tenets of it as well.
It's the empowerment of women. I mean, you could look like Emma Watson beliefs, and it'll all pop up because she's one of the modern faces of it. And
Hermione Granger
for those,
Emma Watson is.
Yeah, exactly. I used to have such a crush on her, and then she became a massive feminist. Like, I really don't like this woman. But I mean, you can look up beliefs like that, and they're going to talk about empowering women, and the question is, empower in what way? Right? Sure. How do we empower them? And they think it's more empowering to leave the home. And what we're seeing now is people kind of questioning that, going, how's that working out for us?
Right.
This getting into the workplace, this getting into college degrees and everything else, so many women are looking for, it's the trope, the MRS degree, right? Where they're looking to go be a wife and find somebody there. The system is kind of broken.
The trad wife thing was kind of took off within the last 2 years.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say.
Where people are starting to reject this and looking at it as this is a problem. But common threads that we see in feminism today. This is the struggle. Is we're not to the point of rejecting it completely.
No,
because we're still seeing some of these tropes, some of these things. You see the strong mom on TV. Rarely ever do you see a strong dad. And you think about everybody talks about Tim Allen being the conservative and the Republican, Buzz Lightyear, right? And so he had Home Improvement, and then he had Last Man Standing, and there's another one he's got on now. And he's America's dad. And it's like, yeah, the guy who's always Jimmy Whip, the guy who plays tough, but at the end of the day, the wife is going to rule the home. At the end of the day, he's kind of a bumbling idiot. The Homer Simpsons of the world.
Essentially,
so often,
the dad is portrayed as a goofball, and the mom is portrayed as she's got it all together.
Correct. And
holding the house down.
What's interesting, we talked about that 90s period, the third wave feminism being more again, just refining their craft a little bit. It's through things like this, that's where the TV shows really dialed it up on dad's an idiot. Nobody takes him seriously. He's kind of the laughing stock of the family, the punchline of the joke. Mom's got it all together. She's just Mrs. Put Together. She works the 40-hour week. She brings in more money.
Even on shows like The Cosby Show, where, Bill Cosby's still kind of the dad figure, what does the wife do? She's a high-powered, I think she's a lawyer, isn't she? She's got her own thing. You're right. The seeds were being planted even back in the 80s and 90s.
Yep. And you often see the jokes. Oh, you got 2 kids? Oh, you got a third kid too. As they laugh about the dad being another one of her kids. Those jokes are rampant, and the problem is they're rampant in the church as well.
Yeah.
The church has started to adopt some of these things.
Well, more threads, as it relates to the church specifically. You can always criticize and kind of beat up on men. Don't you dare do it about women.
Oh, yeah.
That is feminism. That is a root of a symptom, I should say, of feminism. Obviously, there's shirts that girls wear, girl boss, and things like that.
Just that attitude.
Well, and people
attitude.
are dressing 6-year-olds and stuff like that, which
yeah.
is crazy. There's, in pop culture, the Call Her Daddy podcast is a very, very unfortunately popular podcast by Alex Cooper, who, not that I'm at all a regular listener, but essentially the message of that podcast is, hey, men are going to sleep around and do whatever they want, so why don't you do that too, essentially. Women need to go do the exact same things men do.
Tell their war stories, is my understanding. Again,
right, yes.
We're not listeners.
But very, very kind of pro women going out and doing their own thing, essentially. Joe, you got some other stuff on here, women running the church, women running their homes.
Yeah, even from the sidelines, obviously in the Church of Christ, we don't have women lead. But we often know a ton of churches where the wife of the elder, the elder's wife, is very much calling the shots. She's the one that's bending his ear. He's going to go and do her bidding. The old woman that sits on the front that nobody can tell her anything. And so the direction of the church is steered by little Miss Betty on the front pew or whatever it may be. That's what we're talking about. That's the problem. We look at it and we say, is that really feminism? It's an inability. It's a power structure, power dynamic. It's an inability to challenge the power at the top. So who actually holds the power? And so often it's the women holding the power, and the same thing in the homes.
Yeah.
How often is the woman holding the power? And she may not, the guy may be, have the power, but it's in name only. Well, sure, I run the house, but at the end of the day, he's got to run everything by the wife. He's he listens to her rather than her listening to him. There's a submission problem there. And then again, you have the mom who does it all. That's where we start to see the common threads of feminism throughout society.
I mean, look around. You'll see.
Yeah, exactly. You see it everywhere.
So, Joe, let's talk about this turning of the tide. So, we referenced it, at the start. Kelsea Ballerini, again, if you're not familiar with her, she has been around the music scene, the country music scene, 2015, I want to say, is around the time that she came on the scene. She actually got married pretty young to a guy named Morgan Evans. Marriage lasted 4 years or so. Got divorced. She released, in fact, her second album she released was about how much she was in love with him. Third album came out, and then between the third album and the fourth, things started to not go super well, ended up getting divorced. She released an EP, I think 2 years ago, pretty much ripping into him. And I got to say, I actually liked the EP.
Really?
It was pretty good music. I liked it. But, yeah.
Will's a feminist, great.
Yeah, exactly, I know. But essentially, yeah, ripping into him. There's a song, I forget which song it is, but she basically says basically alludes to one of the reasons for their conflict was that she did not want to have kids, that she did not want a family. And again, she seems a bit like she a bit wants to be a kind of a wannabe pop star, and so goes around, do all the tours. Well, anyway, she's now 32, and again been divorced for several years. She had a very high profile relationship with Chase Stokes, the star from Outer Banks. That has since ended, but the CMAs were a month ago, and she sang her new song. It's called I Sit in Parks from her Mount Pleasant EP, and I've got some of the lyrics pulled up. It is intense. It's crazy.
Devastating.
Essentially, it's a song that describes, just my paraphrase, how badly she wants to be a mother. And it expresses regret over her pursuing her career at the expense of her kind of running out of time to have kids, just out of nowhere. Like, I don't think anybody would have seen this coming from somebody like Kelsea Ballerini. I'll read a few of the lyrics. She says, "Did I miss it? By now, is it a lucid dream? Is it my fault for chasing things a body clock doesn't wait for?" She says, "I did the tour. It's what I wanted, what I got. I spun around and then I stopped and wonder if I missed the mark." She talks about how lovely it is that he loves her. So she envisions basically a dad and a mom.
She's sitting in a park.
Bringing their kids. I probably should have read that part, sorry. But brings their kids to the park, and she's watching them. And she says in the second verse, how lovely he loves her. I wonder if she wants my freedom like I want to be a mother. Just crazy coming from, again, this fairly feminist-minded, country pop star singing about wanting to be a mother. What thoughts did you have, Joe? Because, again, I know I sent it to you and you listened to it. What thoughts did you have on this one?
My heart hurts so much. I mean, it's one of those, like,
it's very sad.
You almost tear up at it because of what they've been sold, and you realize how many women are in their 30s looking around going, this is what I want. This is exactly what I want. And instead, I was too busy chasing the career. I was too busy chasing college dreams. I was too busy traveling the world, being with friends, kind of doing the whole feminist trope of, like, we don't need men. Until you do. Until you look around and go, man, I am going to be the cat lady at 40 who has nothing. Nothing. No one surrounding me. A lot of times they shut their family up. She references her body
clock in this song. Like, it's
exactly.
wild.
Like, yeah, it's ticking. And people are now realizing how much kids matter. Did you see that Chalamet thing? The interview in Vogue?
No.
Yeah, they had an interview in Vogue, and they were talking about people having kids and or people not having kids, basically, and why they're turning their back. And he's like, yeah, that's so cringe. Like, basically, you need to be having kids.
Like, it's cool again to have
kids.
Yeah,
like, it's cool again. Like, what in the world is going on? This is the turning of the tide we're talking about, is that something is happening, and it's coming from something like this that is such a gut punch to go, oh, she's sitting in a park watching a family going, I want that. She's on the outside looking into this window.
And it's an about face from what it was 6 years before
Exactly, when she divorces her husband because he wanted kids, and she didn't want to give it to him. And so, man, my heart just hurts for people like that have been sold this lie. They bought a hook, line, and sinker. Time keeps ticking.
Yeah.
The longer you go believing this stuff, the sadder it's going to be.
So it's, again, not really controversy, but kind of an online discussion has come up. Looked up some stuff. So a lady named Bethany Mandel, who writes for Fox News, I pulled a quote from her that I thought summed it up pretty well. Kind of this song and the theme that Kelsea Ballerini is singing about. Bethany Mandel says it's heartbreaking not because she's weak or naive, but because she's honest. Yeah. She's saying out loud what millions of women feel but are too afraid to admit, that the promises of feminism, the ones that said motherhood would chain them, that domesticity was a trap, that real meaning lay in career success and unencumbered independence, left them emptier than before. That's what I really wanted to get at with this episode. It might be kind of a weird episode for the Golly Young Men, but first of all, feminism does affect you, so it definitely matters. But also just to get across that, again, even an incredibly worldly, not at all religious country music pop star is recognizing that feminism has sold girls a bill of goods that is not entirely true. They might have a lot of fun. In fact, she has a line in this song as well. It says, "Rolling Stone says I'm on the right road." In other words, the world says she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing, but she doesn't feel like she is. Why? Well, because God designed her. God designed all women with kind of the innate desire to be a mother and to have children. And so, yeah, it's just a lie, a bill of goods that's just not true, that feminism has sold young women.
And they keep thinking, well, we got to be just as good as men. We got to go into every place that's male dominated, and we got to get women in there, which they never actually say about, like, the oil fields and going in underwater welding and things like that. Like, where are all the women in that one? Why aren't we filling those fields? Oh, wait, because we actually need men. So they hate men, but they need men. And then they're realizing right now, like, man, that's my ticket to the good life. You're going to be alone at 60, not to our godly young men, obviously, but you're going to be alone at 60 having bought the lie of the world and sitting there again with your cats wondering what happened. I have no grandkids around me. I have no husband that loves me. Maybe I had sex with a bunch of guys, but who cares? None of them actually, they all took advantage of me. And that's what people realize is feminism sells this, just go out and have sex with whoever. Like, you idiot. That is playing right into men who have no morals. And the basis of feminism was basically trying to overcome men who had no morals.
Yeah.
So now you stoop to the level of having no morals, and you think you're better than us because now neither of us have morals. And it's actually almost a trauma response. This is going to sound weird. Those who deal with sexual abuse a lot of times will blame themselves because it gives them a level of control over it. And so it's like, it must have been my fault because it gives them a level of control. It's almost like what's going on here, where there is a lot of abuse, and it's almost like if we become hypersexualized ourselves, and if we become, just as much as them, then like that will make the difference. It's such a sad thing for feminism that, once again, those at the top, the Emma Watsons of the world, man, people need to be taken, I shouldn't say baseball bat, but I mean, seriously, they need to be put in prison type of thing and silenced because of this type of stuff, because of how dangerous it is. It is those that have bought this that are so many girls. Well, and so, as we think about it, again, the tide's changing. You think about even Call Her Daddy, the podcast. She had to come out and pretty much apologize because she got married, and had to apologize that she got married because here she is selling this lie to the world of like, go out and sleep with whoever. Oh, by the way, guys, I got married.
I actually found somebody I actually want to settle down with.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, wait a minute. Isn't that what's supposed to happen? But you've been telling everybody that's not what's supposed to happen. And so Taylor Swift, same thing. She was a huge one.
Yeah.
She was a huge.
This was shocking.
Yeah, a huge feminist. Like, we don't need men type of thing. And she slept with, was it like a dozen plus guys of boyfriends throughout and a lot of good music in there, about, I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but there's plenty of good music.
Good stuff, yeah.
With all of these breakups and things like that. Well, here she is with Travis Kelsey. Her song "Wishless." I think you got the lyrics
off this new album. I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but it essentially is about her desire to get married. She wants to have kids that look like her husband. She dreams about a driveway with a basketball hoop. The world just leaving him alone. Like, that is not in the Feminist Manifesto anywhere to be found.
Right.
And yet you have Taylor Swift, who again has been, I would say, not the face, but a face of feminism for a long time, singing about, I just wish people would leave us alone, and I want to have kids that look like, the guy that I'm in love with, and I want to drive away with a basketball hoop. Like, man, talk about a switch up,
And the childless cat ladies were ticked off.
Yeah, that's what's so funny.
There were a
lot of people that were not happy with Taylor
because
Swift
again, you're the face of this.
Yeah.
You sold them the lie. You sold all these young girls the lie that they don't need a man. And here you are finding a man and settling down. Same with Call Her Daddy. Same with these Kelsea Ballerini, where they're realizing now what a disaster. I can't believe I bought into this. And Taylor hasn't exactly come out and said sorry. Right. But on the other hand, this is her admission of like, maybe that's what you're supposed to want.
Yeah.
Now her body clock's later. Why don't we start talking to girls about this at a younger age? And I know we're not complaining to you guys. You guys are godly young men. But on the other hand, this is why we had that. Was it last podcast? 2 podcasts ago? About the girls to choose. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, last week. But thinking about the girls to choose, don't choose the girl boss, because this is what they do. Is it's coming from a place of hatred. It's coming from a place of lack of safety with men, and then they will settle down later. But man, you may be having a severe uphill battle at that point, and I would find somebody who desires these things at a young age is willing to chase it.
Yeah, so just briefly, a few other instances of kind of the turning of the tide that we're talking about. You see commercials now that actually push family values a whole lot more. The Nike ad with Scotty Scheffler, I can't remember if we've referenced it or not. I know we have on our other podcast, about when he won one of his majors this year. The ad that Nike ran was about his son crawling to him, and the caption was, "You've already won." Pro-children, pro-family ad from Nike of all places. And pro-dad. There's all kind of stuff that indicates the tide is turning. Joe, if you want to get in the last one that you have on here, I thought that this one was interesting, but it was your addition, so I wanted to let you talk about it.
Yeah, it's just, it's going to sound weird, but you look at like 50 Shades of Grey and I think the other one you weren't even aware of it, Court of Thorns and Thistles.
It rings a bell now that you say it, but yeah.
Yeah, like it's a huge deal right now, and it's this erotica. And what do you have in these books? You have strong male figures that a lot of times take advantage of women, but it's the woman that is kind of, and I don't read these books, but from everything that I hear, especially in the erotica, is a woman who, is with this powerful, rich man usually who's doing these things, and women fall for this right and left. Women in the world, feminists fall for this stuff. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey was a top seller for a long time with a man, and my understanding is the guy's like a psycho or whatever. I don't know.
But very rich, very powerful.
But again, it's the powerful man that seems to show them a lot of attention and wants them sexually and things like that. Women fall for that. It's like, yeah, that's the point. That's what God wants, is for you to find a rich, powerful man that wants you. No, but to find somebody that is going to take care of you sexually, that's going to take care of you physically, that's going to take care of you spiritually. Women crave that at their innermost parts. It's the wounded parts that say no, and the problem is the world is the one wounding them. The world is the one jading them against men when, man, if they step back and have just 2 minutes to think about this, or maybe 6 years to think about this, in her case, you go, maybe this is what I want. And man, if she had known that 6 years ago, whenever the divorce took place, maybe she's already got 2-3 kids. Maybe she's the one in the park, and there's another feminist watching her on the bench.
Right.
But now she's having to figure this out. Man, just a sad thing.
So let's get into, Joe, as we're kind of running up against our time here. Why is feminism alive? I think we've set the stage pretty well to kind of discuss, obviously, the history of feminism, and then also kind of how some of its main faces are kind of looking around like, maybe this isn't as good of a image as we thought it was initially when we were 22, as now we're 32 or whatever it is. So why is feminism alive? The first reason is that biologically, women do actually need men. No matter how much they want to stand up and say, I don't need a man, the strong, independent woman doesn't need a man, they do. It's biologically for safety, security. Obviously, they're shorter, they're weaker. They're think about just a survival show, right? 25 guys and 25 girls. Would a single guy get killed before a girl? No, of course not. Like, men are just biologically more capable of survival, and so therefore women do need men. And again, it's not popular to say in this culture where a woman can theoretically get any job a guy can get and whatever it is. There is something psychological that I'm sure you could speak to more, just about the need for safety, the need for security that men can provide.
Yeah, women are looking mainly for safety and security. Guys are looking for respect. They're looking for accolades. They take risks. Women, by and large, are not the risk takers, because women want the safety and security that a man can provide for them. And a woman goes, well, I can provide that for myself. Like, not if any man is significantly trying. You know what I mean? They're on the good graces of men, that men aren't in a society. We're not complete animals that are just going off on them.
Yeah.
And they act like we are, and it's like, oh no, you have not seen men do that by and large. Yes, there's some really bad men in the world, no doubt. There's some really bad women in the world too. But if men decided to just have a war, it would not go well. And so, yes, biologically, and the other thing is, in order to exist, you needed a dad.
Right.
You needed a man. Sorry, lesbians can't have kids without it coming from a man somewhere down the line. So you do need a man, and that's one of the big reasons why it's like, we don't need men. Like, actually, you do. The other one, and this goes to 1 Timothy 2:15, women will be preserved through the bearing of children. Women are born and biologically wired to desire children.
Yeah.
That's why a girl, most of the time, will gravitate toward a baby doll rather than toward trucks or something. And when it's toward trucks, I have theories on why that is. Guess what? Attachment theories. Everybody,
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Jack and Will make fun of me for mentioning attachment all the time, which I do. But I think that there's an attachment issue when that is the case. So often, though, and we're talking like the large majority of the time, girls are gravitating toward the baby. They're gravitating toward the family. They're the ones that want to play house. They're the ones that want to take care of the men, type of thing. They make great nurses. Like, they are trained and biologically wired to care for people. And so feminism is a lie in the fact that it goes against biology.
Yeah. The third one, and Joe, it looks like you have maybe some statistics.
Oh, yeah, this is so interesting.
But women's mental health is best in a home with a family. Just like, to give the alternative, just like a man's mental health is not best when he gets to spend 8 hours a day playing video games, or, when he just gets to hang out with his buddies and do bachelor stuff all the time. That's not when his mental health is the best. It's when he has a family to provide for, can come home to, kids to spend time with. Similarly, and Joe, I guess I'll give you the mic here for the stats, but a woman's mental health as well, or women's mental health, I should say, is better in a home when they have a family.
I was trying to find I knew there was a recent study on this, and I had Googled women happier with family than without, because it was something like that I'd heard. Top 2 things on Google. I thought this was so interesting. First, from The Guardian, article from The Guardian, women are happier without children or a spouse, says happiness expert. May 25th, 2019. 2019, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Women are happier without children or a spouse. The next actually several, are from a study that was released late August this year. Married moms twice as likely to be very happy than single moms or moms without kids, or women without kids. Twice as likely to be very happy. And so this is coming from, that's the Institute for Family Studies. Right underneath it is a doctor from September 1st, How Marriage and Children Are Linked to a Woman's Happiness. Or a woman being happy, all of these after that. So 2019, again, turning the tide. 2019 is like, actually, they're happier without kids. And now a major study has proven that's not true.
Yeah.
They're twice as likely. That is a significant, like, in the world of statistics, to have something that is twice as likely is a pretty big deal. If it was like, it's kind of like 20% more, like double. It's twice as likely that you're going to be happy with being a wife and being a mom than being single and without kids. This is big news, in my opinion, big news in the world. Now, we've known this because it's from God, and God tells us this, but for the world to finally be catching up with these studies and realizing all these happiness experts and idiots that are trying to sell the lie of feminism are being proven wrong just through science these days. And it's the same, it always works this way with God, where science ends up being like way late to the party, 6,000 years late to the party, and we go, actually, wow, we didn't know this. Like, yeah, we did. We've been reading the Bible.
Exactly.
But that's another, I would say, nail in the coffin of feminism here, where the tide is turning. Studies themselves are proving feminism doesn't work.
Yeah, man, we could spend forever here. I'm just so curious as to what changed in those 6 years.
I know.
Was it what
COVID?
What generation grew up? Yeah, I know COVID was a big. I wonder if part of it is just they've had a good amount of runway now to live their single, sleep around, cat lady lifestyle, and the returns are not very high.
Right.
Like, the returns they're yielding are not very fruitful. Not a lot to show for it, and so maybe that's just coming to light more now, and girls are seeing, like, not a lot to show for that, as opposed to a girl who gets married, has 3 or 4 kids, a legacy, people to spend holidays with. Like, that does a little bit more for you than the 4th and 5th vacation of the year type of thing. And so I don't know. Yeah, there's so many things we could discuss from
Romans 1 talks about God giving them over to their lusts and passions, right? And I think there's a level of, like, they've been given over to this. They were raging against the machine for so long and down with the patriarchy that it was kind of like, in the last few years, there's almost been a step back, and especially since Me Too, of like, okay, you guys win type of thing. You have nothing to rage against now. And so much of feminism is, once again, it's rooted in anger. It's rooted in rage. It's rooted in hatred. And what happens when you have free reign? You start, it comes around and eats itself. And this is where I think feminism has led to the trans movement. And that has created all sorts of issues, because now you're having the TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists, like J.K. Rowling, versus the trans inclusionary ones. And so feminism, they want to say, well, it's all for the women, but ultimately it leads to a place where men can become women, and that's why it starts to eat itself. But why not, right? Because ultimately, if there are no gender roles and those things, the lines are blurred, which was a feminist like trope, that was a key part of them, is to blur that. Of course, it's going to end in the trans movement. And so you start looking at this, and it's like, I think they finally were given free reign to do what they wanted to do in society. As you said, it's not working. And what do they rage against now? Down with the patriarchy. Like, there's hardly a patriarchy left. There's hardly anybody that's doing it. Well, women need to be in these positions. Okay, now you are overwhelmingly flooding the colleges, flooding these positions. What now? You have the power, and it's going nowhere. And it's not giving you the freedom, and it's not giving you the accolades and the respect and everything you thought it was going to give you. Instead, it's giving you songs like this, where a woman sits in a park and is devastated that she's not a wife and a mom. Yep. That's where it's getting you. So, man, again, we can rage on this all day.
Way to wrap.
We can rage on this all day, but
that's why we wanted to have an episode on this, is because, man, you're going to hear so many different just lies about it. And again, I know these things are targeted at young women, but it's also feminism that has told men, hey, pipe down your masculinity, tone down your masculinity. Like, hey, strong man, nope, we don't want any of that. Be the good boy, be the nice guy that's just going to be kind of a pushover. Yep. Let's the wife run the show. It's not rewarding. It's not actually what people want or what they're designed for. And so, yeah, we're spending all this time using, Kelsea Ballerini and Taylor Swift to tell you, man, do it God's way. Like, just do it God's way. That's the easiest thing in the world, is to get married, have children, raise a family. If you're the husband, lead the house, or, lead the house spiritually, go out and make the money. If you're the wife, man, support your husband, help take care of raise the kids, and just have an awesome life. Like, that's what God designed. Yep. And again, as Joe said, like, people, trad wives and stuff, like, people are coming around and going, interesting how that's what people want. It's like, yeah, God knew that from the foundation of the earth, because he created it that way. And so if you don't take anything else from this podcast, that's what I'd ask you to
Women need strong, masculine, godly men.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here on this podcast.
Exactly.
That's why we appreciate you listening. We appreciate your support and all of this.
Next week is episode 150. I do think it is too late, depending on when this comes out, to submit any more questions, but that's okay, because I don't think we need any more questions.
Goodness. We got a lot.
We have so many. We're doing an Ask Me Anything episode
from the Discord,
from our Godly Men Podcast Discord, which the link to sign up to that is in the description, both on YouTube and on the podcast apps, for you to click the link and join our Godly Men Podcast Discord. But yes, those questions that we're going to be answering are directly from our Discord members. We have got all kinds of questions that we're going to be answering. We're really looking forward to it. It will be coming out next week. Yeah, Joe, anything to say about that?
That one's going to be long.
Just be prepared.
I was going to say, just be prepared. So if you're like, oh, well, we like the 30-minute. If you like more, you're going to get more because if we answered a question every 10 seconds, we'd probably go more than 30 minutes. We are very excited for it. So make sure to stay tuned on that. Make sure to join the Discord. Get your comments in on this too. If you got questions, if you got comments about feminism, points of disagreement, things like that, we're willing to go round and round on this. Obviously, we're passionate about this. We're passionate about men being godly young men because the women need us, and it's our opportunity to come in and to kind of save the day, so to speak. And it sounds, a bit tongue-in-cheek there, like we're not Superman. But on the other hand, we have an opportunity to really affect things going forward. And that's why we do this podcast, is for things like this. And we're starting to see the turning of the tide. It's exciting times. So get your comments in, join the Discord, be ready for episode 150 next week. And we will talk to you again next week.